31016, everyone right, right on.
Third land, 31 right.
Delta 260. See you later, dude.
Hi everybody, very welcome to Mentour and yet another live stream. This live stream is going to be simultaneously streamed in here in YouTube and in the Mentour Aviation app. I just want to make sure that everyone understands right now that what I'm trying to do is I'm moving over the live streams from the YouTube channel and into my application Mentour Aviation. And that is to not mix the different content and to be able to interact directly with the users of my Mentour Aviation app. So if you don't have it already, there is a link down here to both iOS and Android, which I want you to use. And now, to the reason why I'm having this live stream, of course, it's all about the current chaos that's happening all over the aviation world. Now, this is not something that you will see every day, and that is lucky, because what's happening now is going to have repercussions. It's going to have financial repercussions. It's going to have safety repercussions all over the globe. Okay, so what do we know so far? Well, we've had two crashes of a Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft within the last 6 months. First one was in October, and it occurred to a Lion Air 737 MAX that lost control of the aircraft and nosedived into the Java Sea just about 12 minutes after departure. The second crash happened to the Ethiopian Airlines flight yesterday, flying out from Addis Ababa. And that happened only about 6 minutes after departure. Also looks like a nosedive into the terrain in this case. Now, on the surface, these two things looks very, very similar, and I understand the concern that is out there in the industry. Now, what me and a lot of the other YouTubers and experts and aviation authority experts and everything has been saying is that we have to await the investigation. We've now got both the flight recorder and both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder from the crashed aircraft, the latest one, which means that we will be able to access the data very quickly. And they've said we can't draw any conclusions about what caused this crash, if it has any correlation with the previous one, until we have read the flight data recorder and listened to the CVR. Now, understandably, there's been a public outcry. When you have a new aircraft that has only about 5-6 months of service crashing for no apparent reason, and then you have another one doing the same, of course there's going to be concern. And what's happening right now all over the aviation world is that the countries are closing their airspaces, right? Individual countries have been closing them. China closed it yesterday. Australia closed it today. Individual states within the European Union closed it today as well. And now at 1900 UTC, EASA has gone out and said that they want, for precautionary reasons, to not allow any 737 MAX aircraft, neither the 8 nor the 9, to fly over the airspace during this initial part of the investigation. So, is this right or wrong? Well, only time can tell. I completely understand that people are nervous when they see these kind of things. It is a perfectly natural reaction. And also I understand all of the people out there who say, well, it's better to be safe than sorry. Just ground the aircraft and then wait until the investigation takes hold. Now, on the other side of the table, you have the FAA and Boeing, surprisingly aligned, very closely aligned on this occasion, saying that the 737 MAX has gone through a very rigorous certification process. It has been checked out. The MCAS system, which by the way I did a video about after the first crash, is only a small part, a small augmentation system that is there in order to help the aircraft to be controllable in a situation where the aircraft is at high thrust, high pitch. Okay, so the MCAS system is not an overriding system that is there all the time, kind of flying the aircraft for the pilots. It's there only when a certain number of prerequisites have been fulfilled. Then it's activated and it does start moving forward. For that reason, Boeing and the FAA says that these aircraft are perfectly safe. The FAA have not grounded the MAX fleet. They are awaiting more information. Boeing is adamant about saying that it's safe. Now, of course, they would say that. But at this point, I want to make it absolutely clear that no one knows. All right, no one knows what caused this latest crash. If it is related, if it is correlated, it's an absolute disaster. If it is not, then it's something completely different. But what we're seeing now is a huge reaction on a global scale. And why did I say that this is going to have economic repercussions? Well, the fact is that there's quite a lot of these flying around already. The 737 MAX is significantly more economic to run than the 737NG is. And because of that, you will have companies that have started to replace their fleet. So Norwegian Air Shuttle has quite a few of them. You've got Lion Air flying around with a lot of them. We've got several airlines that have heavily invested into the 737 MAX. And of course, when you ground all these aircraft or stop them for flying over the airspace in anticipation of an investigation, well, then of course you're grounding the fleets of several airlines. And that is going to have huge economical repercussions for these airlines, especially if this is an out-drawn thing. So if it just for a few hours or just for a day or two, it's still going to cost millions, tens of millions of euros and dollars. But it might not be that bad. But if you're starting to look into a month or so, Boeing has said that they have an approved update to the MCAS software that is going to be implemented in April, that is limiting the amount of trim authority that MCAS has, together with loads of other updates. But of course, April is almost a month away, well, at least 3 weeks away. And a 3-week stop in all 737 MAX, that could mean the failure of several companies. So at this point, I am together with all of my colleagues very, very interested in knowing what's in those black boxes and hearing some kind of preliminary report coming out, so that can point one way or another, right? It is extremely important, and this is something that I really want you guys to understand as well, that it is important to not jump to conclusions. media will of course do that. They will find two crashes that are very similar and they will immediately say that these are exactly the same. But it doesn't have to be that way. It could be that way, but it doesn't have to be. And in that case, I know that a lot of people who are already nervous flyers out there will see this as, as something horrible, as something that would increase their anxiety and fear. And I do understand that. But do please remember that we are dealing with an aircraft type, a 737, that has been flying for decades with an extremely good safety record. All right, the 737 MAX is essentially the same type of aircraft with bigger engines that are moved slightly more forward. Hence, they had to include this MCAS system in order to get the aircraft certified, because without this stability system, you could find yourself in a situation where the aircraft could, if it pitches up and has full thrust, you wouldn't be able to push the nose down. This is what the MCAS, very simply explained, does. If you're in a situation where the nose is really high, you have the thrust full on, well, in that case, the underswung engine are so powerful that they will just force the nose to stay up, and the aircraft can find itself in a stalled situation without having the authority to push the nose down in order to increase the airspeed and get up. That's why MCAS was installed, to enable, to help trim forward, to enable the pilots to push the nose down in a stall situation and get it flying again. So apart from that, there's only some minor changes. There are different winglets, there's a different landing gear, there's slightly different seating configuration, but the 737 MAX is a 737 NG in its essence. Right, so we're talking about in something that is that has proven itself to be safe. So if you're flying with one, now you're not going to fly on a MAX for the next couple of days at least. But be sure that once this investigation comes out, no matter what it shows, the actual aircraft in itself is a safe aircraft. But if there is a fault in it, and this is very important, guys, if there is a fault in it that has to do with the MCAS, if the MCAS go high wire, it is, there's going to be litigation, there's going to be loads and loads of things coming out of this. But be sure that when this aircraft gets allowed to fly again, it is going to be a very safe aircraft, probably one of the most scrutinized aircraft that has ever been flying around in the skies. No one is going to let this aircraft fly unless it is completely safe. And this is what Boeing is stating that it is already. So I'm at the moment, I'm not taking any kind of sides here, and I don't want to. I just want to explain to you guys why, for example, the FAA has taken one decision while the EASA and China and Australia and India and so on has been taking other decisions. I would say that those governments are taking decisions based on the, better be safe than sorry, basically. Just keep them on the ground until we have absolutely clear what we're dealing with here. And I understand that. So let's see if I can take some questions here. Now, once again, I'm not going to speculate into what happened in this individual crash. I'm just going to be talking about the general chaos that's going around because of this. So, for me, let's see. For me, just ground all MAX and search for a solution. Yes, and that's what a majority of the world is doing at the moment. The first pictures of the crash had not the wreckage. Yeah, once again, the crash, sorry, the actual crash is off limit. I'm not going to be talking about that. And there was wreckage there. There was just very small pieces of it, which would be indicative of a very high velocity impact. If you nose down and dive an aircraft into the ground, it's going to be scattered into millions of little pieces, unfortunately. Right, what I'm going to do now, since there doesn't seem to be much questions coming up neither on the super chat here or in the actual chat, there's more people just stating their intentions. I will take some questions from the Mentour Aviation chat. So this is what's going to happen with my live streams going forward, is I'm going to be broadcasting them inside of the app, and the people inside of the app will be able to ask questions. In this iteration, it's going to be in the chat, but in the next iteration, it's going to be for premium members in the actual live window, so you won't have to toggle forth and back inside of the app. Mentor, is there any chance that the FAA will follow suit as more and more countries ground them? It's unlikely that the FAA is going to change their stance, because they have already gone out and said that they are not going to ground them unless there is proper reason to do so. Of course, if the black boxes are released and it shows that this is indeed a similar type of failure or a failure that is connected to the aircraft type, they will. There's no question about it. They will ground them just like they did with the 787 when the 787 had battery problems. It's just that at the moment they don't have enough or sufficient information to ground it based on airworthiness issues. All right, there needs to be very clear proof for that happening. Kioris, Mentor, would you fly in a MAX? Yeah, well, of course, at the moment we are, just like I was saying before, all of the whole aviation community and all of everyone else is standing by to see what the investigation shows. Like I said, I'm very confident in the aircraft that I'm flying now, which is the 737NG, the 737-800. It's a fantastic aircraft. The MAX has, like I said, some extra features to it, but essentially still the same aircraft. So if you would have asked me 2 days ago, absolutely. Right now, I am, when the aviation authorities are starting to ground aircraft, then I do listen to them. Like that is a very clear signal. So right now I'm just waiting to see what the initial investigation will find, and you can be absolutely sure that this investigation is going to come with some kind of information very soon, because they know how high pressure is. I have, during my time in the business so far, I've never seen a response as kind of direct and harsh as this. Right, and that shows the public outcry, and it shows the interest there is in this. All right, so we can expect some kind of answer to come very, very quickly. I see guys in the chat are looking up different flights that have been diverted. This is another thing. So there are at the moment several aircraft flying, over these countries that suddenly closes their airspace. And what's going to happen then is that these aircraft will not be allowed to either enter the airspace or continue. So they're going to have to divert. Now the problem obviously is that there's a lot of, at the moment you can't land anywhere. I guess, during an emergency situation you will be able to land, but they will have to divert quite far off the route in order to be able to land somewhere, which is also something that's almost unheard of. Sierra Romeo Mike in the chat is asking, Mentor, is the MCAS system only on the MAX or other aircraft too? No, it's only on the MAX, and that is because of the bigger engines that are mounted forward and a little bit higher than the NG. The new engines needed that because of the short landing gear that you have on the 737, in order to not be close to the ground or ground strike during rotations and during crosswind landings. So they had to add the MCAS system to the MAX in order to allow for the engines being situated where they are. So that's why you don't see the MCAS system on the 737NG. We do have a similar system called a speed trim system that does similar things, but it's not as extreme as the MCAS, and it doesn't trim fully forward in these 5-second increments like the MCAS is doing. So more questions. I'll take something from the normal chat as well. What's up, my fellow Swede? Well, it's all good. Actually, I'm going to go and cut my hair very soon, and I'm going up for an early duty tomorrow morning to a very windy Eindhoven. So that's why I'm not going to be doing a long live chat here, guys. I'm just going to be kind of clarifying what I've seen so far and what I think will be going on. I think that, like I say, I'd say within the next few days, there's going to be data coming out of the flight data recorders. I would be surprised if it doesn't come maybe even tomorrow, and based on that, then that data is going to be pushed out to all of the different aviation authorities out there, and they are then going to be able to take decisions. What about if we are going to allow the aircraft to fly again within the airspace or not? Okay, so I am hoping for a quick resolution to this. But once again, if they find out that it is actually indeed something technical, if that happens, well then these aircraft might be grounded for a long time, and that is going to have some serious repercussions for the airlines that are largely using them as their kind of working horse. So Xantec on the super chat. Okay, so you're deep into EU airspace in a MAX, and airspace closest to the MAX. What do you do then? Must you fly out or fly out of the airspace? Yeah, I've never been in this situation. I'm expecting that ATC will probably advise me on this. Initially, you would have to divert somewhere where it's allowed to fly, as in return to where you came from. But obviously, most flights doesn't have the fuel to do that. So if you end up then having a low fuel situation, you're going to land. It's going to be allowed to land, and that is not going to be a problem. But it's a very, very delicate issue. And like I said, in my years, I've never seen that happening. So, Vanilla Sky Gaming, have the data recorders been located for both accidents or just the one of the accidents? So, the one that happened 3 days ago, they have located both of them. In the case of the Lion Air crash, I believe that only one data recorder have been found. I think it was the flight data recorder, not the cockpit voice recorder. But you might correct me on that. I'm not 100% sure. So, Carlos Carranza, did the FAA confirm airworthiness? Yeah, they did initially, and now they're saying that they stand by their initial assessment until other proof has been presented to them. And like I said, Boeing has issued this is going to update the software programming for the MCAS. So we shall see. More questions from the Mentour Aviation chat. I hope you have the app, guys. Go down. It's free to download because there's loads of things going on. There's almost 5,000 people in there every day discussing these kind of things and asking me questions, or all the other pilots that are in there that are willing to share their experience as well. So get it now. Mentor, would it be possible for Boeing to have to stop the 737 MAX production? Well, I mean, anything is possible, but no. Whatever fault that they find, if they find a fault at all, it's still not ruled out that it might be something else. If they find a fault, they will be able to fix it. There's no question. Like I said, it's built on the airframe and the principles of an aircraft that's been flying for 40 years with a fantastic safety record. So it's not like they have redone the whole plane and all of a sudden it's not airworthy. It's going to be a minor detail, mind you, a minor detail that has proven very, very deadly in that case. Once again, we don't know this, but they are going to check to fix it. But the Boeing shares have apparently dropped almost 22%, which is the largest single drop since 9/11, and that says something about the seriousness of this situation. Yeah, so Elsa Marionen, interesting how this accident has made everyone stop talking about the Primera 767 crash a week and a half ago. Yeah, but this is the way that things work. Media move on from one thing to the other, and of course, the more loss of life there is involved, the more interesting it's going to be for the media. So in this crash, there's 157 people dead, people from the UN, people from loads and loads of different countries were involved in this crash. That is going to raise up a huge amount of media attention, and so that's probably why it has been spreading so much all over the world, because people have been seeing this. The experts have been talking about how there's a possible correlation, and when they do that, that's going to scare the general public. The general public will start demanding that the aircraft are not to be flown, which I've seen a lot, even inside of the app, which is consisting of loads of people who are actually interested or into the aviation. But the general public, even my mom called yesterday and said, yeah, but you're not flying that MAX thing, are you? And that gives an indication of how much the people are concerned about this, okay? If you compare that to the 767, you had a cargo aircraft with only 3 people on board, which is from an industry standpoint just as interesting, just as important to be properly investigated. But of course, from a media perspective, I doubt that anyone in Europe that's not into aviation has even heard about it. So it's very unfair, but that's the way that media work. I do please tell, anytime that something happens like this, the first couple of hours of days after a crash like this, no one knows what they're talking about. People will sound like they know what they're talking about, but no one does. And this is why I don't do videos on specific crashes or ongoing investigations, because you don't, unless the final the investigation team has been in place and done a proper investigation and come with a final report, then you can start discussing it, and then you can start discussing in repercussions and stuff. But to hear that an aircraft has crashed somewhere in the world and within a few hours being sitting on CNN or BBC or whatever it might be and talk about why this happened or what the possible cause is, it's just guessing, and it's going to have effects. Like, it's going to scare people off. So I am, you won't hear me doing that. I did a video about the MCAS system, just like I'm doing this video now. I did a video on the MCAS system to explain what the MCAS system was. all right? Just like I'm doing this to explain what is happening all over the world. But I would never go in. I wouldn't, out of respect of the people who are, you know, the relatives, the families of the friends of the deceased, both the crew, the passengers. I would never go in and do that. It would be absolutely disrespectful, and never. So, more questions about the grounding then. Mohammed Bayad, if plants are grounded and there is confirmed that there is a flaw on the MAX design, is it possible to calculate the losses of these companies? Yeah, I mean, they are going to be starting to see losses quite immediately. Now, the thing that you have to understand is that the aviation business is extremely cash intensive. So this means that little tweaks left and right is going to cause either millions in gains or millions in losses. And if you have something, we've seen it here in Europe when the French ATC controllers decided to strike for a couple of days, and it stops the air traffic going over France. Well, when that happens, you can immediately start seeing losses, like tens of millions of euros that is disappearing out of the income of these airlines. And that's exactly what's going to happen to these airlines. The only difference here is that the competition that doesn't use these aircraft are going to have an edge, as in they are going to be able to fill up their aircraft with passengers who couldn't fly or doesn't want to fly on these particular types, and they are stuck on the ground while everyone else is producing. So while a strike would kind of hit everyone equally, something like this is going to hit individual airlines much harder. And that is you will see about it. You know, if this goes on for a week, I think we're going to start to see airlines having problems surviving. Cherub 777 on the super chat. What are the chances that Ethiopian crew have not received any training on the UKSM bulletin? Almost none. Like, this is also something that I've really taken effect to, because I've been following these discussions on Twitter, and there has been insinuations from people saying that, well, you know, maybe they weren't trained because they're not American or because they're not European, they're not getting the proper training. Ethiopian Airlines is an excellent airline, all right? From what I can understand, they have a very good safety record, they have a very good training organization, and it's supposed to be top notch. And the fact is that any pilot who flew on the 737 MAX would have gotten the airworthiness bulletin, the airworthiness directive that was sent out after the Lion Air crash, informing everyone about the MCAS system, saying what it could do, and also crucially saying what to do in order to restore it in case this system would start trimming the aircraft forward. Let's say that there would be, for example, an angle of attack vane that stops working. Okay, that angle of attack vane sends signals to the MCAS system that says that, oh, we are pitching up way too much. The MCAS system starts doing what it's supposed to do, which is pitching the aircraft forward. But of course, in this case, the aircraft is not pitching high, it's going level. And now the MCAS system is starting to pitch forward. Well, in that case, Boeing made it very clear to say that, first of all, this happens when you're flying manually. Right? It doesn't do it with the autopilot engaged. It shouldn't anyway. Secondly, if it does start trimming, you can counteract it with the electrical trim, but it will continue. As soon as you release it, it's going to continue. Also, thirdly, if you have any kind of condition that produces a continuous trim motion that isn't against the pilot, and you will notice that if you're flying the aircraft manually and the aircraft starts trimming forward, it's going to start being heavy very quickly. And we do train this in the simulator. Okay, and what we're supposed to do then is do the runaway stabilizer memory items. All right, and that includes disconnecting autopilot and auto throttle, holding the controls firmly. And then if it doesn't work, the disconnecting, then you go down to the stab trim cutoff switches, which, by the way, if you follow my Instagram account, you saw I put a picture up of those switches in my Instagram account yesterday. So just go Mentour _pilot, and that will give you there. When you switch those switches off, that will kill the MCAS system, all right? And hopefully any kind of system that is affecting the trim motors. Now, you could have other failures that would get it continuing to go anyway. In that case, we have our last point, which is to trim wheel grasp and hold, which is not nice, and that's actually physically taking your hand and holding the trim wheel still in position. But these systems, that is available, all right? And Boeing made that very clear. So yeah, the pilots flying in the Ethiopian Airlines aircraft yesterday, or sorry, 3 days ago, they would have known about this. I'm absolutely sure about, especially with all of the industry press and stuff that happened after the Lion Air accident. I mean, I'm not even flying the aircraft yet, and I was very much involved in the discussion. So, more questions. Hi Peter, what are the chances of the MCAS system being hacked, overridden, like a terrorism threat? Very slim. Like, hacking on aircraft so far is unheard of. I did a video on that, which I agree that probably someone with more computer knowledge should probably have done. But no, I would think that would be very, very far-fetched. So Boeing is an American company. No surprise that the FAA didn't ground it. No, and that's obviously the conclusion that a lot of people have been drawing as well. Whether there's any merit to that or not, I'm not entitled to say. I have no idea. So Garrett, great job explaining the issues, bringing back some balance to the discussion. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to do here. All right. I want to. If there is a fault, it has to be fixed. If there's no fault, then the aircraft needs to continue to fly again, and we need to understand what caused this horrible crash. That's the most important thing. Whenever there's a crash out there, the most important thing, the only silver lining is that we can learn something from it and hopefully stop it from ever happening again. And that is the key here. That is what we need to achieve. Okay? The discussion, the scaring of people, the telling people that, oh, this is a flying death trap, stuff like that. No, it doesn't help. It is not factual, but it's not based on anything yet. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to achieve with this live stream, and I hope that you guys understand that and don't, flip the words out, because I know that I'm going out a little bit on a limb here, even discussing this. There's going to be people who have opinions about me having a live stream on this topic in any form. Okay, so that's it. Let's see. Ian Gill on the super chat. Peter, we are due to fly the MAX in mid-May. I, for one, am happy that time is taken out to check out the relevant point. Yeah, and like I was saying, absolutely. And you know, if there is an issue with it, you might not be flying the MAX in May. That might be grounded still. It might be replaced by something else. But if there is an issue, you can be absolutely sure that this aircraft is going to be, like I said at the beginning of the live stream, probably one of the most well-checked aircraft that is in the skies, because now nothing can happen to this aircraft. Boeing would go under if there was another one that was to go down, and it was also pointed towards a faulty system. Like the MAX line could potentially go lost then, and it's just not. It's unthinkable. So don't you worry. There's going to be proper investigation into everything that could have possibly caused this. But yeah, we just have to wait and see what comes out of it. How possible is it that this is a coincidence? It is possible. This is perfectly possible. Like there are, unfortunately, aircraft that crashes now and then for different types of reasons. I don't know. Initial report said that Boko Haram was active in around the area, which is a terrorist group. There was talked about being shot down. That, I think, has been debunked. There's so many things that could potentially have happened, but the fact is that these two things look so similar, and that's why the alarm bells are going on in the entire industry at the moment. More question here. This chat is just ground for conspirators without an engineering background and flat earthers. Yeah, well, I only try to answer questions that actually have a merit. Okay. More questions from the Mentour Aviation chat, which I tend to forget when I'm looking at this. So Donald Trump has said something here, and Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom about all matters that have to do with anything, has said something about the all the aircraft being too much technology and being impossible for pilots to fly. And I'm guessing that he's basing that on his enormous amount of flight hours. I don't know why Donald Trump tweets the things he does, but I'm sure that he has his reasons. I'm not going to go more into that. So, and 2 crashes between 6 months, there is something wrong. like, I mean, there is a possibility of of just a chance that it just happened to be that type on that day. All right, that is there. But like, once again, we are gonna have to wait and see. Mentor, is Patchy near you? I think I can hear his feet moving around. Yeah, indeed, he's outside of the door trying to get in. Mentor, do you think that it's possible for Boeing to relaunch the 737 MAX under a new name? No. They're gonna keep the way it is. Go. Right, guys, I'm gonna stop it there because I actually have to go. I have to eat something. I have to get my hair cut and I have to go to bed because I'm actually flying tomorrow. And like I said, it looks like it's a fairly windy day in Eindhoven where we're going tomorrow. But so I'm gonna have to get my beauty sleep. I hope that you like this. If you have any more questions, go into the Mentour Aviation app chat, send the questions there. As you can see down here, you can just tag at Mentour. Actually, it's there. You can just tag at Mentour and that's going to send me a push notification. Obviously, I'll be sleeping, so I won't be answering any questions tonight. But when I'm in and when I'm not flying, I can, come in and give my opinions. But there are Airbus pilots in there, like at Ava, for example. You have at Flying Hande, which is another 737 pilots, and you have loads of corporate pilots and stuff in there as well. So go in there, ask your questions, and please remember to be factual, positive and constructive. All right, the Mentour Aviation app, just as this channel, is made for you guys to have somewhere to go where no one is supposed to ridicule you, where no trolls are allowed, where you can only talk about aviation and speak aviation, but it has to be with respect to each other. Remember that you might be 35, there might be a 12-year-old asking the questions. Okay, you should answer them like I do, with the respect the question deserves. So if someone asks you, how do aircraft fly? Well, then I will respond with, well, there's a combination of Bernoulli's law and the Newton's third law of physics, and it's affected by the wings, the amount of air that's flowing over the wings, and I will give them a proper answer. And I'm expecting exactly the same for you guys. And when you start to feel that the discussion is getting heated, that you're starting to get angry in any way, well, in that case, just take a step back and remember what this purpose is of the chat. All right, positive and constructive. Have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, guys. If you have a chance, come in and say hello. Otherwise, I will see you in my next live stream and possibly on the web, a new video that's coming up on Friday as well. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.